Today we're taking a closer look at Simcoe Day, a public holiday celebrated in parts of Canada, especially in Ontario. Named after John Graves Simcoe, the first Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada, this day honors his contributions to Canadian history, including the founding of York, which later became Toronto. Simcoe Day is a chance for communities to come together, enjoy local festivities, and reflect on the region's rich heritage. To help us learn more about the significance of this holiday and how it's celebrated today, we're joined by Brendan Caldwell, Director at Caldwell Securities Limited. Brendan, thank you for the time today.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it, and happy Simcoe Day to you. Now, in the art of naming one's child is a difficult thing, and so my wife and I, we've had four children, and for one of their middle names, we've typically picked a place that has been significant, or a name that connotes a place that is significant. So our eldest daughter is Riley Ann Simcoe, named after, well, we would say Lady Elizabeth Simcoe, but also the Simcoe County, where my wife's families lived for nearly 200 years, actually. So it's a name that has some significance to our family. The man, John Graves Simcoe, for whom the holiday is named, well, I'm glad they named it something, because I think for many, many years, the first Monday in August was always a civic holiday, but it didn't have any particular meaning. So I think different provinces have picked different names for this national holiday. In Ontario, we picked Simcoe Day because after really a remarkable man. He fought on the side of the British during the Revolutionary War. We can come back to that. But when he was asked to come from England to become the first lieutenant governor here, he was taking over a brand new colony, a brand new place where his first job was really to help resettle refugees. There were so many on the other side of the American Revolution who actually wanted to stay loyal to Britain, whom, when the revolution was over, had nowhere to be, no home to go to, and had to go somewhere else. Some went back to Britain, but many came up to Canada, to Nova Scotia, to Quebec, and indeed to what was Upper Canada, now Ontario. And so, I mean, one of his first jobs was to create a colony, to create a series of cities and infrastructure that would welcome the refugees coming north. So he was quite a remarkable man, called upon at a difficult time, to say the least, in this continent's history, to help bring peace in the aftermath of war.
Well, and I think a lot of people refer to it as the civic holiday. So thank you for unpacking the significance of Simcoe Day. But the Canadian stock markets are closed and the US markets are open. How does that work, and how does this affect Canadian investors?
Well, it's an interesting thing when your portfolio goes up or down when your domestic market is actually closed. We have a team here in our office at Caldwell Securities that are trading all through the day because, well, we're open because the U.S. market is open. And I mean, the tricky thing for Canada has been that so many of our companies are now interlisted. Our bigger companies are now interlisted in the U.S., either on the New York Stock Exchange or on NASDAQ, that I don't know that the actual volume of trading of the bigger names, take a Royal Bank, for example, or a Shopify, would be impacted that greatly. The Canadian market itself has actually been starved for volume, both because of the trading or lack of trading here, but also because there hasn't been a lot of new issues, certainly not in our bread and butter, like mining and oil and gas. So I'm hopeful and cautiously optimistic that the reforms being made at the provincial, and particularly with the new federal government in place, will make it easier for companies to raise money, particularly in the sectors that Canada's historically been very good at, and been a benefit to the world to be able to bring resources to the global economy. So, long-winded way of saying that the US market being open means that a lot of Canadian stocks are still trading. Practically the only trade that isn't happening is the arbitrage trade, where there's buying and selling being done based on the price differences of the Canadian and the US market. So that's off for the day. But a lot of the biggest Canadian stocks still trade in the US, which, as you pointed out, is still open.
Now, we've been neighbors with the US for over 150 years through peace, conflict, and now tariffs. What does Simcoe Day remind us about the importance of having stable cross border relationships? Because I think where we're at right now with a trade war, a lot of people forget that.
Well, again, John Graves Simcoe was a remarkable man. Legend has it that the Battle of Brandywine, there were three um, uh, um, U.S. officers, rebel officers, that had hoved into view of his troop, and he could have had them all gunned down, but he let them go. I believe the phrase used was, "We are not in the business of assassinating the enemy officers," which is all well and good. But one of those enemy officers was allegedly George Washington. So John Graves Simcoe, in a way, made America in its current incarnation with its current naming possible. Um, we have been neighbors, and mostly good neighbors. They've only invaded us a few times. Once, right at the beginning of the American Revolution, again, of course, in 1812, and the last time in 1865. Some veterans of the American Civil War, the Irishmen, the Fenians, crossed the border and thought they'd take Canada hostage and trade it for Ireland. Didn't work out. We're still here. Because I think one of Canada's great attributes is our resilience. Invade us, sure, but there's an awful lot to invade. We have been good neighbors and good friends for, as you point out, at least 150 years,
Mhm.
probably closer to 200. And whether it's being first up in to bat during the First World War or the Second World War, Canada has been taking on darkness in the world for a very long time. We were extremely good allies during the Afghan War. We looked after Kandahar province for north of a decade. And for those of us old enough to remember the Iranian hostage crisis, it was Canada that sheltered the American diplomats for a very long time until they could be safely extricated from the country. So politically and militarily, we've been great allies. In terms of the economics, it's the largest trading relationship that's ever existed in the history of the world. Something to be celebrated, and not to be taken lightly. So we have indeed been great friends, and hopefully that friendship will continue.
Well, from tariffs to trade wars, we're now in a very different economic world. What does this mean in an age of globalized finance and digital borders?
Well, it'll be interesting to see as we moved from nationally issued what's so-called fiat currency, or what most people would call paper money, although most money in the world is no longer paper. It's the US dollar, the British pound, the euro, the Canadian dollar. Uh, Increasingly, I think transactions will take place in transnational currencies. I don't think it'll happen overnight. I think there'll still be Canadian dollars around long after I'm gone. But I think uh, um, the Gresham's law indicates that inferior currency pushes out superior currency, and you might see that these Bitcoin, stablecoin, Ethereum, perhaps, or other cryptocurrencies become the new method of global trade, particularly if the United States continues on the trend of wishing to isolate itself. I don't think the world is going to settle on another national currency to be the currency of choice for international trade. I think it'll be one of these so-called cryptocurrencies if there's anything that ever replaces the US dollar.
Now, Brendan, you've highlighted the significance of Simcoe Day, but how are you spending your Simcoe Day?
Well, um, I'm on TV with you, but I hope to spend some little bit of time in nature. I don't know if I'll get up to Simcoe County this today, but I do enjoy the trees, and maybe I do plant rather a lot of trees, just because this world is changing, and I think there's a lot of greenery that can grow in Canada now that wasn't able to grow before. whether it's trees that used to be in the United States and now seem to flourish up here, or trees that flourished in the most southerly parts of Canada, like the redbud, that now can survive much further north. I think I'll spend the day and at least spend some of it planting a tree.
Well, Brennan, thank you so much for the time today and happy Simcoe Day.
Happy Simcoe Day, Theresa.